Welcome to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. I am Ann, and today we are walking into a topic that is heavy and oddly hilarious at the same time. We're going to talk about cancer. Yep, the big one. But don't go anywhere because, this isn't about the cancer that you see in a brochure. We're going to be talking about all of the really crazy parts of it with someone who has lived it within her body, in her marriage, in her motherhood, in her bank account, and in her soul. And somehow she still managed to write a book that had me laughing out loud and wiping tears off of my face at the same time. Today I'm sitting down with USA Today best-selling romance author who's written over 38 books and had one of her books turned into a Lifetime original movie, I Do, but I Don't. And she also had breast cancer. She's a breast cancer survivor. Cara Lockwood, also known as Cara Tanamachi, is a mom of a blended family of 5 kids, and in September of 2023, she was diagnosed with stage 1, HER2, positive invasive breast cancer. She had 16 months of treatment that included a double mastectomy, 12 rounds of chemo, 26 rounds of immunotherapy, physical therapy, reconstruction, a port, and a whole lot of swearing. And now she is officially in remission. Her book, There Is No Good Book for This, but I Wrote One Anyway, The Irreverent Guide to Crushing Breast Cancer, is honest and funny and tender and fierce. It's a kind of book I wish every oncologist had on their shelf to hand everyone on diagnosis day. So, Cara, I'm so honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so glad to be here.
This is one of the bravest books that I
Oh,
have read.
thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I read it with my coffee in hand, not my tea, not my tea. You know,
Yeah,
and if you have to read the book to know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
We're going to walk through so much of what you wrote. We're going to talk about fear, humor, money, losing your boobs,
hmm
relationships, death, joy, and then new boobs that are not what the catalog promised, and why it's okay to say this sucks and still be hopeful at the same time. So, everyone, you are welcome here. Whether you are fighting cancer, loving someone who is going through it, grieving someone that you've lost, or just trying to make sense of a world where everything can change in a single moment. I want to start right from the very beginning of your book because I knew I loved you as an author from page 1. You
Love
quote
that.
Tanya Massey, love and laughter are two of the most important universal treatments on the planet. But wait, no, no, no. No. Immediately you just say, okay, actually, laughter isn't the best medicine. Medicine is the best medicine.
Yes,
Please don't go tell your oncologist that some weirdo who wrote a book told you to skip chemo and just watch a stand-up special. I mean,
exactly.
this sets the tone for your entire book. The way that you write made me keep turning that page. And I
Oh,
even,
thank you.
yeah, I read parts to my 9-year-old and we laughed out loud. And he's a boy and he still was I said, "Oh, you have to hear this. You just have to hear this." I never in a million years thought that I would laugh my way through a cancer book.
Yeah,
I just want to thank you because I honestly think your approach will put the book in so many people's hands and keep them reading through the hard truths because they're surrounded by humor. And I
yeah.
think it's important to hold both things at once. Okay, your armpit story, and then the one where the stranger is pinching your bleeder on your boob while you're talking about the weather, and your MRI
Yes,
commando story, and your thorough
yes.
search on the internet to make sure that it didn't show up anywhere. Come on. But you're also talking about something that is so serious and life-threatening, and you show
Yeah,
that we can laugh in the worst of moments, and maybe it does take the edge off because laughter or being shattered and being shattered wasn't an option for you. Can you talk about how humor helped you through one of the hardest times in your life and how you put that humor on the page to help others?
Yeah. Well, I love humor. It runs through almost all of my romance books because they tend to be romantic comedies because, I think humor is just fun. I think,
Yeah.
uh, what's more fun than laughing? I can't think of anything. So, for me, humor is always the way I've dealt with hardship in life. And, when life dealt me cancer, I felt humor was a superpower to sort of deflate
Mhm.
fear, which, fear is overwhelming when you get that diagnosis. But laughing at it and laughing at the absurd parts that happen throughout treatment is just a way to take your power back,
Oh,
to
yeah.
show that you still have control. Because if you find it funny, then it can't be that scary.
Yeah.
It really can't. So for me, humor was just everything. It was the way I made it through appointments. And thank goodness my husband,
Mhm.
PJ, he's amazing and kept me laughing the entire time. And
Yes.
even inappropriately in doctor's offices,
Yep.
because
Yes.
absurd things happen. And, we
Right.
should give ourselves permission to laugh because it's good for us. And it is good medicine, not the medicine, just good medicine.
Yes, yes. You open early with the reality that when you hear the word cancer, your life is officially turned upside down, and
Mhm.
nobody plans for this and
Yeah.
puts this on their vision board. I mean,
No.
you have all the stats on how many people get diagnosed with cancer and die from cancer, and you compare the cancer journey to climbing a mountain in flip-flops, which was so visual.
Yeah.
It's steep. You're not dressed for it. I mean, your
Right.
feet, I mean, everything that you have to go through. And you were not a rookie at life when you suddenly were dealt your new normal. You have this blended family of five. You've written many books. You're a successful author. You had just turned 50 when you got the diagnosis. And I mean, when you realize that this was a journey with no exit ramp, when you think back to that woman sitting there newly diagnosed, what is the thing that you wish someone had whispered to you in that moment?
Yeah. I think I would have loved to have been told that I'm stronger than I think I am, because
Okay.
I think at that moment, I think for a lot of people,
Mm,
I have known friends that have gone through cancer.
mm.
I have known, brave people, but I always thought they were just better than me. I mean, honestly,
Oh,
like,
okay.
just stronger,
Yeah.
braver,
Right,
all
right,
of those things. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. Is really what I would like to share with people, because I think we sort of skip over that part of becoming the warrior and we just go straight to the
right.
end. Where, they've been brave and they've done hard things.
Hmm.
Um, but everyone can do hard things, and
Yes.
unfortunately, life deals us a fair number, our fair share of hard things to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, you use this powerful image, and I think that most of us know how to fight something that's outside of us.
Yeah.
We know how to fight that bully, that mean boss, money problems or whatever. I mean, lots of times they're on the outside of us, but this was inside of you, and you talk about your body betraying you. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the call was coming from inside the house. This is a classic case where, the enemy's within. And
Right.
it was difficult to wrap my head around that because I had
Mm-hmm.
a lot of anger. I felt betrayed, by my own body. I thought we all agreed we're going to live together. No one's going to try to kill one another. And then, my
Right.
breasts were secretly hatching this plot to kill us all. And,
Oh my
I was like,
gosh.
what? Wait, why? And it was a journey to sort of get my arms around that. And I think really it started with understanding that, like, my brain is the adult and my body is the child that doesn't know, any better.
Oh, right.
The cells in my body were a lot like, a toddler. Like, look at the things I can do. Look at all these cells I can make. Look, I'm doing it so well. And my brain's like, no, that's wrong. I'm sorry. No, we can't do that. We have to stop that. So I think seeing, like, my body as like that inner child that doesn't know any better, isn't intending to kill us,
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
doing this thing on rote automatically, thinking it's a good thing when it isn't. So that was the first step
Right.
to really sort of fighting that enemy within.
You bring to light that I think that one of the scariest parts of anything in life, really, it for everybody, I think, is fear. And
Yeah,
fear can take us through the absolute worst scenarios and it almost ends up with us dead. I mean, come on. It just does. And you even quote Robin Roberts, who said it is about focusing on the fight and not
yeah,
the fright. And she went through this too. And I
yeah,
love how you go one step further and say that cancer is not even the most dangerous thing in your life. Fear is. So
yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest hurdle really in front of anybody who's diagnosed is dealing with the fear because
Mm.
fear, it's like one of my favorite songs by Pink, which is Turbulence. You know, fear is that turbulence shaking the
Yes.
plane,
Yes.
but you feel like the plane's already crashed. Like fear is telling you the plane's
Yeah.
crashed, everyone's dead, all hope is lost. But it's
Yes.
what's happening in real life is just turbulence. Nothing has happened beyond that. So the cancer diagnosis is just that. It's turbulence. You haven't died yet. You haven't been, uh,
Right.
told that all is lost. But the fear is telling you that, and that's honestly, it's just a
Right.
natural reaction that we all have. It's a survival mechanism. Fear. If fear told you, "Hey, maybe it'd be nice to swim with sharks," you
Right.
know, then we swim with sharks and die. Like
It, you
versus going to that worst case scenario. It's just trying to
sure.
protect us. I mean, I don't know how
Yeah.
you feel about fear, but fear is a drama queen.
No, fear always has me dead, especially in the nighttime. I mean, I
Yeah.
think of my absolute worst things at night. I mean,
Yes.
I'm gone, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Worst
I
case. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, I clapped when you said Pink because I've seen her 5 times in concert. She's one of my favorites
I love her.
ever.
Yeah.
Yes, and I knew that I liked you even more when you quoted her. And I love that stat from 1980 to 2089 to 2020, where you said that breast cancer death rates dropped by 43%. I mean, that's
Yeah.
encouraging.
It
And
is. Yeah.
did you, with that thinking, were you able to stay in that light of thinking of like, I'm still just flying the plane, but it's turbulence, or did you keep crashing and have to bring yourself off the ground? Was it a constant with
Yeah,
you?
it's a constant, and I crashed a lot. I
Hmm.
crashed out a lot. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, that's just
yeah.
normal human feelings. But thankfully, like it took multiple ways for me to like tackle the fear. Like I went to a
Mm,
counselor and talked about my fear with a
yeah,
professional, which was incredibly helpful. I mean, of course, I talked about it with my husband and family, but it's also hard to talk about how scared you are with
hmm.
people closest to you because you're also
Sure.
trying to be brave for them. So
Right, right.
so that's hard. But for me, talking to a counselor was so important because she was just a voice of reason. The plane's not crashed. It hasn't crashed. You're still flying it. And that resounding message again and again. I had to meditate, because
Okay.
it's hard to feel like you're dying when you're just breathing and everything's fine right this second. So
Hmm.
meditating kind of puts you in the moment and gets you out of your head for the future and you're just in the
Yeah.
now, which is important because you're not dying now. You're fine
Right,
now.
right, right, right.
So that a lot of blasting my playlist,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of that for sure. It's a multi-pronged approach because you can be just going through your day and fear will hijack it. You'll get a
Right.
test
Yeah,
result or a call or for no other reason, that you
yeah.
woke up in the morning and then suddenly you're scared, because it's just sort of a constant, reminder. So it takes like perseverance and like you gotta battle on all fronts kind of at all times. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you talked about irrational fears, and it was interesting to me that women were more afraid of losing their hair. And
Yeah.
than dying. And honestly, I mean, I understand it as a woman that we're so socialized to see our value and how we look that the fear of
Yeah,
rejection of
yeah,
people is
yeah,
even worse, or, that we might not have our hair or that we're scarred can feel more terrifying than the medical reality. And then there is the fear of losing our breasts. And I think
yeah,
that that would be absolutely huge because we identify so much with being a woman. And I really do think that, there's a lot of people that would feel like they are losing their womanhood. What about that with you?
yeah. Well, that's an excellent point you make because it's so fascinating, I think, for us as women because we do put so much of our identity, in our breasts because they're
Mm-hmm.
visible. They're how we feed our babies. They're very
Right,
unique
right.
to us. They're also attractive to our partners. And yet at the same time, they're not essential to us. They're not a
Mm-hmm.
heart or lungs. We don't need
Yeah.
them to live. And yet, they're so important to our sense of identity and selves. And I
Mm-hmm.
went through quite a journey with this because I had needed a single mastectomy, and then I had to decide
Right.
whether to get the double, and it was a little bit of a struggle. I mean, I didn't want the mastectomy first of all at all. Um,
Sure.
I had nursed my two biological kids, and just I just felt like they were just such a part of me. I didn't know how I would function without them. Which is
Right.
which is doesn't make logical sense because again, not something you need to breathe or eat or you know walk. Do any of the things that we
Right.
think of as essential to being human. But
Mm-hmm.
it was such a difficult place to mentally to get to say goodbye
Right.
to a
Right.
part of me that I felt like was just so integral to my sense of self since I was 12, and 13.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so it's hard. It's hard to come to that, feeling and that fear you talk about sort of conflates the
Right.
two, right? It conflates
Inflate.
what
Just
what
kidding.
we yeah, what we want and
Yeah.
what's actually necessary. So
Right.
it's
Right.
yeah, it's really hard to get to, a real truth about it, I think.
Yeah, I've had to learn that my fear is not a profit.
Yes,
It's
yes,
just loud, and
yes.
I need to have control over it and show it who's boss. And
Yeah,
you call your cancer
yeah,
she
yeah,
because she was in your breast. But if it would have been in your colon, it would have been he, they. And I
yeah,
laughed so hard, but your point was to name the fear, give
yeah,
it a face.
yeah,
I mean, that was so empowering.
yeah, yeah, because it is an enemy you're fighting. And you should know what the enemy looks like, because I think, in the horror movies, when you
Absolutely.
don't see the ghost, it's always worse. And when you finally see it, you're like, oh, that's not actually not that bad. That's fine. So if you have it in shadow all the time, you can't really fight it in any kind of meaningful way.
Exactly.
Yeah, so naming it is so important. Naming that fear, giving it characteristics, give it a name if you want. I mean, anything that sort of help you get your hands around it so that you can fight it.
You really point out that this is everybody's journey, individual journey, and I really like that. Um, this is your pity party. You say, if
Yeah,
you want to eat ice cream and cry in the shower, that's your prerogative. If you want to watch reality TV and be alone, do you.
yeah,
So why was it important to say that instead of stay positive all the time?
yeah. It's interesting. I had very well-meaning friends, and sometimes I would rant. I would just rant because there's a lot of anger that comes out with
Sure.
cancer. And I just also felt like I just wanted the cancer just dead. I
Mm,
did a whole riff about Al Capone from The Untouchables. Like I just want the cancer dead. I
mhm,
want its family dead.
mhm.
I want its house burned to the ground. I was just very angry at cancer. And this well-meaning friend was like, "Oh no, you have to be like very positive. You can't be negative like in this fight. Like you got to be live, laugh, love. Everything's great." And I'm like, I don't think that's how this works. I think you can
Yeah.
be incredibly salty, and that's positive too. It's wherever you get your strength from. If you want to be salty and sarcastic and curse a lot, do it. I mean, it's whatever gives you the power over the cancer. Because I do feel like there is, medical treatments and doctors are so important, but it also, I mean, attitude is important. You just don't have to show up as everything is rainbows and,
No,
frappuccinos and grapes. You know,
it's
it,
not.
it's not. So we should just be
No,
honest. Yeah.
right. One thing I did not realize I had no idea that it took so long from diagnosis to
Yeah.
actual treatment plan. And
Yeah.
you talk about those weeks when it feels like the cancer is growing inside of you and you're in
Yeah.
limbo, and
Yeah.
that waiting could drive anybody crazy. I mean, in the middle of all of the needles and the scans and the machines, and you keep coming back to one thing, self-advocacy. And
Yeah.
you tell people that if appointments are taking too long, if things are falling through the cracks, if the best place for treatment is not down the street, speak up, ask questions, keep calling. Don't assume that silence means that you're fine. What did
Yeah.
you learn about your own voice when you were stuck between, we know it's cancer, and here is what we're going to do about it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have come so far, I think, in our treatment of cancer, and yet we have a long way to go. So
Uh,
I think it's better now. We know more. There's more research. There's more plans of action for certain kinds of cancer. More hospital networks just sort of have a plan of action. Like you're going to see this person. You're going to see this person. At the same time, your cancer is never going to be as urgent to anyone else as it is to you.
right, right.
And
Well,
it can become sort of like this cog in a wheel. This like okay. Um, Disappointment, but it might take 3 weeks to get into your MRI, or a month to get over here to get your biopsy, or we try to hurry it up, but there's a waiting list for whatever. And the clock is ticking. I mean,
it is.
there is a time, it's like 6 weeks from diagnosis, where treatment needs to begin. So it shows that, if your chances of survival increase if you get treatment within that time, um, all of the things look a lot better if you start, earlier. Um,
Hmm.
but at the same time, like, the scheduling person may or may not be aware of the urgency, so for me, it was really about asking that follow-up question, and I don't think you need to be rude to people just trying to do their jobs and inundated with making these kinds of appointments. But to me, it
Yeah.
was just about asking that, like, is there another appointment? Can I go? Can I drive farther? Can I,
Hmm.
what are some options? I have friends that live in other cities. Can I get a sooner test?
Hmm.
And I think having that, advocating for yourself, speaking up, raising your hand, can only help you, because it's really your journey, and you're gonna have to pilot the ship. Like this is,
Right.
this is a case where you can't like just farm out, whatever you want to do to somebody else. Like you're gonna have to really drive it. And so ask those questions. Be loud. I think that's fine.
Yeah, you can't worry about being a bother.
Right. Right.
And
Especially not now. And
and
women, I think we're told often, like, just be happy with that.
yes.
You'll be fine. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I often say, like, to a doctor or whatever, well, what would you do if this was your mom or
Yes.
your kid? Or, do it as
Yeah.
if I mean, that should be the urgency, as if it was your own family member.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you find a doctor that you just don't feel like you're communicating well with, or isn't listening to some of the concerns that you have, find another
Hmm.
one. Get another doctor and network. We don't always have the greatest choices depending on our insurance, but it's worth the call. It's worth a second opinion. you know,
Right. Oh,
to
yeah.
have somebody that you trust who listens. Because I think,
Right.
doctors are just people. And so we get
Hmm.
along with some people better than other people. We communicate better with some people.
Sure.
It
We
doesn't mean
want,
they're bad doctors. It just
maybe
means
we
they're
want
not.
a man other than
Yeah,
a woman or a man,
yeah,
yeah.
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 I, I feel like I was lucky. I had a team of women. Not that
Okay.
male doctors I had a couple of second opinions from male doctors who seemed very knowledgeable, but it was helpful just to speak to a woman about, losing your breasts, since she would know what that feels like.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah,
I want to talk about what I think would be one of the hardest things, and that's telling loved ones. And
yeah,
you have an entire section on this. You talk about how hard it was to tell your mom and
yeah,
actually saying the words out loud. And
yeah,
there's a private knowing and then a public witnessing. Can you
yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's one of the hardest things because
Mm,
when you're telling people this bad news about cancer, every time you say it, you're telling yourself too. It's just a
exactly.
reinforcement of the
Sure.
bad news you already know. Um, and I don't know about other people, but when I woke up with it every morning, it was like the bad news that, I was like, oh, wait, something terrible's going on.
Right,
Because I had that
right.
little brief snippet of sleep that was fine. So telling my loved ones, I mean, it was just a bomb in their days. It just blew up their day. The closer someone was to me, the worse the news was. And,
Hmm.
it just, it's such an icky feeling because not only are you dealing with this, but then you're just ruining someone else's day. That's just terrible news. And
Isn't
it
that
was,
interesting that that's how
yeah,
we think as women?
I know. You think I would be like, yeah, I don't know that men would feel the same
I
about that.
don't think so either. They have no problem doing that to us.
I'm having
I'm
something
sick.
terrible
I
happen.
have a
Join me.
cold. I have a cold. You need to take care of me,
I
you
know.
know?
My cold is everyone's problem now.
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
versus I have cancer. I don't want it to be a problem. Is that a problem?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so true. But what I also loved is that you can control who you tell, you know,
Yes.
who you let in during that time. I mean, that's
Yeah.
so important.
Oh, yeah. And I would just like to underscore too, we're so often like, I don't want to be a bother. So I think some women default toward keeping it in and not telling a lot of people, but you do need the support. Like you do need people to
Yes,
understand
yes,
and help. And you might not always get the help you want, but it's important to have a support system. So it is important to identify the people you want to talk with,
yes,
tell. And you can do it on your schedule. You can do it as slowly or as quickly as you want. I mean, this is your news to tell, and you can tell it how you want. So I mean, for me, I really only had the energy to tell like a few people like at a time, just a person here or there over a period of like a week or 2 weeks. Like it took a
right,
while because every time I told someone it was awful and, had to like gear up and tell someone else. And, it was important to me to reach out to the people closest to me one on one and not make a big social media announcement. Not that I would judge anybody for doing that. I just knew in my circle of friends, they'd be like, hey, I found out on Facebook or Instagram. What are we not friends anymore? What the heck? So it really is dependent on your circle and your group. But it's important. It's important to tell the news. And also, it's difficult too because you may not always get instantly the support that you're looking for,
mm,
at the
mm.
time because it's important to keep in
Well,
mind that this is scary news for people, and often the way they react is like sort of platitudes or rushing ahead. Everything's going to be fine, or trying to figure out if it runs in your family, or
okay,
it's just like that human need to be like, how do I take this bad news and then use it in my life to make sure this doesn't happen to me, which sounds selfish, but
mm,
honestly it's just a survival mechanism. It's back when we were hunters
sure,
and gatherers. If somebody came back and said there was a poisonous mushroom, we were like, where is it? What does it look like? How do I avoid
right,
it? If they saw a
right.
bear, okay, how do I avoid it? Like, I mean, it's just survival. But so it's important to sort of brace yourself for that too when you're giving bad news to the people closest to you, I
And
think.
you point out that there's going to be a lot of people that don't react the right
Yeah,
way. They're going to say
yeah,
the wrong things,
yeah,
and you gave examples of that. And I think I might have been that pivot person every now and then in life. Oh, okay. Well, the and
yeah. I
you
mean, you
know,
will get the pity and pivot, which is I'm so sorry, so sorry, and hey, did you hear about our neighbor selling her house? Like, what?
yeah,
Let's talk about her. Let's talk about her divorce. Wouldn't that be great? But yeah, and I think it's just because it's uncomfortable, for us.
yes,
We want our friends and family to be happy and healthy and not feel
sure.
awkward. Um, I think in cases like these, the best thing to do is just to let the other person lead. Ask curious, open-ended questions.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
What did you want people to say to you?
yeah, I mean, I think the best thing is like, how are you feeling? How are you dealing with all of this?
Okay. Mm,
What is, right now, what's like the thing that's weighing on you the most? Those are just open-ended questions. You're not
yeah,
assuming that I've already decided treatment. You're not assuming that I want your advice on treatment,
right.
because it's having that diagnosis is so overwhelming. You have to talk it out a lot of times with your friends, and you may not know what's you're the biggest hurdle for you right now. Like, but if someone asks
Yeah,
you an open-ended question, you may start to think, oh, you know what? I'm scared to death. That's the thing that's
right.
bothering me the most right now, and then
Yeah.
get into an honest conversation where you don't feel so scared anymore. So
Yeah.
I think honest, open questions are the best, and just being there,
Okay. Oh, those canned responses of I hate, everything happens for a reason, those
yeah,
kind of things. And I've had this before where people say, just give it to the Lord and everything will be fine. And I'm just
oh
thinking, no, it won't.
yeah,
No, it
yeah.
won't.
Yeah,
It's not going to change anything. So,
well, exactly. I mean, it's those kinds of platitudes help the speaker feel better. If they
yes,
feel like that you can just hand it to God and everything's fine, then maybe they don't have to show up, in a certain way,
there you
or
go.
right. Then it also absolves them of responsibility or accountability. It's like, this is your problem or God's problem. It's not, I don't actually have to like step up right now because that's scaring me. Like, what does that mean?
Right.
What is that gonna do? What does that mean for me? And
Yeah.
I people lean on faith, and I think that's great throughout
Mm,
treatment. I also feel like, growing up, um, our family pastor had a story about, God sending, a very faithful man who had a flood getting up on top of his roof, and then, God sending a boat, and then God sending the helicopter, and then God sending another rescue team.
I know
And he's
this one.
like, no, no, the
Yeah.
Lord's going to save me. And then he goes to heaven. And he's like, where were
Why
you?
did,
And God's like, well, I sent a boat and I sent a helicopter, all these other things. So, I don't feel like it's a straight line, like that God's just going to come down and handle it and touch you and heal you, and then everything's great. But he may very well send an army of people to help, doctors and
mm,
friends and, so I would say don't absolve yourself of the responsibility of showing up and working some miracles on your own, with
hmm
friends and family, because I think it's important that we all come together and support one another, especially in trying times like cancer. Like that's really the way to get through it, I think.
It made my mind go to what would the standard greeting card be for something like this?
Yeah, right, right. There's no good saying for this. You know, um, yeah. I mean, it's also okay just to say, I don't know what to say. This is,
Exactly. Or
I,
just be with the
yeah,
person.
yeah, like
You,
I love you, and I hate this is happening. Like,
yes.
yeah,
You bring in Mr. Rogers and you quote him saying, when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say, look for the helpers.
yeah,
And you will always find people who are helping
Mm-hmm.
always.
Yeah.
And many might not say the right thing, but they might do the right thing. I mean, that was really important. So, what did help look like for you?
Yeah. I was really moved by just the concern and the care. There's so many
Yeah,
people in my life showed up with baked lasagna, got meal trains going, picked up kids from school and drove them
see.
around, when I couldn't. You know, it doesn't have to be a big, grand gesture. It can be something very small. It can be going to the grocery store and picking something up.
Mm,
It could just be like,
mm-hmm.
do you need something? I'm at the store. Very small. Like it doesn't have to disrupt your entire, day, to help someone.
See,
But just to
that's
be seen and felt, and the doctors and nurses are amazing and often don't get the credit they deserve. They get a lot of angry patients who are not
mm,
happy about things that are really not their fault.
mm,
Doctors get sick and they have to cancel appointments. I mean, this just happens. So
yeah,
yeah, I think being grateful and looking for that gratitude is so important because things can always get a whole lot worse
mm,
very quickly. So being grateful for the things that are going right, for the people that are
right.
showing up. Not everyone's going to show up, but that's okay. I'd say just let them go and focus on the people in your life who are there for you and are showing up because it
Mm-hmm.
can get a whole lot worse really quickly. So gratitude's important, I think.
And it can feel so lonely, I'm sure. And you were very clear in that, stay away from that no, I'm fine thing.
Yeah,
Let people in. Don't be that
yeah,
martyr. Let them
yeah.
help you. Because we as women, again, we're the ones that are normally helping other people. So it's kind of hard to be able to say, yes, I really do need your help. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, was a divorced mom for 8 years, and
Mm,
basically, a single parent for a long time, and I just felt like so much of my identity too was wrapped up in I've got this. I don't need help. I'm fine. I'm supporting myself.
yes.
I'm, getting the kids to school. I'm handling it. Everything's handled. And then if I admitted that it wasn't handled, I don't know. Someone would come take my mom card. I don't know. I don't know. But it is important to ask for help. And I think,
Right.
at least for me, a key part of talking to my therapist and really doing a lot of introspection and a lot of internal work was to get to the point where I felt like I deserved the help. I mean,
Hmm.
because I
Okay.
think I think it was like I didn't want to be a bother and like, but why don't you want to be a bother? Like, why don't you want, do you feel, because underneath that, if you peel back all the layers, it can be, maybe I don't feel like I deserve it. Maybe
Hmm.
I don't think
Hmm.
I'm important enough to interrupt people, to inconvenience people, to put people on the spot. And I
Right.
think doing a lot of internal work and feeling like, not only should I ask for help, I deserve it. Like I'm a
There
good
you go.
person. Yeah, I am a great
That's
mom. I am a good friend. I'm a great friend. I am here for people. And so I deserve to have people care for me too. And so I think it's getting there. It's so hard to get there. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but it's so hard to get to that inner place.
Oh, it is because I feel like I'm Superwoman sometimes, or I try to
Yeah,
be. And
yeah,
I, we are made to handle everything. Oh, I got it.
right.
Everybody's walking into the house with nothing in their hands, and I've got 50 things in my hand. I mean, that's just the way it goes. They're all like, "Oh, mom's got it. Don't worry about it." You know?
Exactly. I've got dinner and I've got the extracurriculars and I've got, the birthday shopping and I've got all the things, and everyone's going to feel special and everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
The house is
Exactly.
going to be clean and decorated. And don't worry. Also, I'm juggling a career.
Yes.
It's fine. I got everything. Um, yeah, it's a heavy load for us. And I think when it comes to cancer, just really refocuses your attention, away from some things that maybe having the house not quite spotless is okay. It's okay in
Yeah.
this time. Okay.
You know,
And
you
I think too, it's good to let go of some of those expectations we have of our kids and our spouse,
okay.
a little bit like, well, they're not going to do this. They're not going to do the dishes, so I need to do the dishes. They're not going to cook, so I need to cook. Like, that whole feeling of like, well, if I don't do it, no one will. I think
Mm,
it's kind of a reset time where you can just ask. You can just say it's
mm-hmm,
very important to me that you guys do X, Y, and Z. You know,
mm-hmm,
I can't do it
mm-hmm,
right now. Like
mm-hmm,
and I would really love to help. And then
mm-hmm,
maybe after when you're in remission,
mm-hmm.
I can't guarantee it, but maybe the dishwasher will get, you know, emptied every now and again.
Yeah. 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 I like that part in your book too. How you just kind of used it as an excuse sometimes to get out of certain things. So, I mean, that was a little
Yeah,
humorous.
and do that. You don't feel like laundry, don't do it. Ask
Yeah.
someone else in the house to do it.
Right. You know, you talk about appointments and treatments, but you also talk about stress, anxiety, and depression. And you say that 1 in 4 cancer patients experience depression, which I actually felt might be low because I
Yeah,
thought, gosh,
right.
everybody might feel some depression while they're going through it. And you make a big point that your mind is one of your greatest weapons.
It
You quote
is.
Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is everything. What you think, you become. And I say this all the time. I mean, you talk about getting on the treadmill, sweating, listening to music, which you kind of touched on a little bit, basically crying while power walking and
Mm-hmm.
yelling at your cancer, you don't
Yeah.
have control over me. You don't
Yes.
own me. I
Yeah.
do. So can you talk about that season where movement and counseling became part of your fight?
Yeah. I mean, I think the mind body connection is so important, mind, body, and
It
spirit,
is.
like all together. And I feel like for me, the way to like just really focus all of them, I hit the treadmill in the basement, with an amazing playlist of all my most empowering songs.
Mm,
And I was just really able to focus my mind on what I wanted to do, which was be cancer. Like it,
hmm
um, and I would sit on that treadmill for an hour, like just really power walking it to death. you I think it's
Yeah.
just it the power of our intention and where we put our focus is so great. We tend to feel like when cancer hits, you feel like powerless, like everything's out of
hmm
your control. You're just running around. You're going to doctors. You're not sure what's going to happen. But cancer doesn't get to decide. You get to decide your treatment, how you feel about it. You still have a lot of agency, and that
hmm
and that focus of your mind, where you want to go, what you want to be, visualizing where you would like to be when cancer is done,
Yes.
what you want to
Yes.
be doing. I mean, these are all incredibly powerful tools, not just to
Mm,
keep your mood elevated, but I think to, help you fight it. I think
right. Right.
I think
It's everything.
visualizing where you're going to be will help it come true. So if you're feeling like, oh, I'm just gonna be beaten by this, then you probably will. It's just like,
Hmm
Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Like
Yes.
it's really there's a lot in us, and we should tap into that great power that's inside us, I think. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I love the line that your body showed up for you because you
Yes,
showed up for it.
yes,
And that's so true for so many kinds of trauma and healing. I mean, not just cancer, but in everything. I mean, you really stress how important it is to go into this fight or really any fight healthy.
yeah, yeah. And I think the diagnosis was really a wake up call because I had not been walking. I had not been exercising. I had not been eating great. I
Hmm
had gained the COVID-19 and didn't much care. Like I just, was drinking wine too much. Like I knew I was not living the healthiest lifestyle I could. And this was
hmm
really a wake up call because,
hmm
I realized that, my body's what I have. That is my soul's residence right now, and I needed to do some good maintenance on it in order to live a longer life. And I think
Right.
it's important for us to not discount how important it is to be healthy. And I don't mean like the absolute healthiest six pack ab, a Terminator version of yourself. I think
Right.
that's hard for any of us to achieve, but there are small things we can all do. We can all eat some more fruits and vegetables. That's not a big thing. We can
Right.
all, move our bodies a little more. Like, we don't have to run marathons, but we can go for walks. And these things are really important for our bodies to stay healthy. And if we want our bodies to treat us well, we need to treat our bodies well.
I found it interesting, and if we do have to do those things because of this, and this was scary to me, but I also know that it's true. And you bring up the Commonwealth Fund study that shows our healthcare system is one of the most expensive in the world, and yet
Yeah.
we are the sickest people. And
Yeah.
than any other industrialized nation. We die younger and we have a
Hmm.
harder time affording basic care. But no pun intended. I mean, it sickens me to see all of that. And
Yeah.
we ranked last on access to care and
Yep.
health outcomes compared to places like Germany and Canada, France, and
Yeah.
other places. And we
Yeah.
live the shortest lives and face the most avoidable deaths, which a third of Americans, you say, they report some kind of medical error. And
Yeah.
I just know somebody who died of cancer, and it was because of medical error.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's not okay. There are
Yeah.
so many people with medical debt bankruptcies in this country.
Hmm.
I mean, this entire section of your book could
Yeah.
have been a book.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we need so many reforms to our system.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
Oh my gosh.
it's completely mind-boggling
Mm-hmm.
how it's become so politicized too, when health shouldn't. Getting cancer care should not be a political topic. It shouldn't.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. It was interesting. I was in Melbourne, Australia for a book conference this last summer, and my husband went with me, and he had a lingering cold that turned into bronchitis. He was worried it was
Oh,
pneumonia,
mm,
and he wanted to go to urgent care, just to get some, antibiotics. And but we were very worried. We were like, oh gosh, how much is this going to cost? Like, I don't think Blue Cross is going to cover us out here in Melbourne. Like, this is going to be bad.
right.
We called urgent care, and we were like, look, how much is this going to be? And they're like, what do you mean? And we're like, well, we're from America and we have American insurance. And the nurse on the phone literally said, oh, I've heard of this. So you have to pay, yourself for healthcare. I was like, yes. She's like, no, this is tax dollars sent to the government that pays for the clinic. So you come in, there is no charge. I'm like, what do you mean there is no charge? I'm like, what?
Isn't that
Really?
unbelievable that
And
that's
then,
the way it is?
yeah, it's just and as we were in urgent care, and we had to wait, but you have to wait at every urgent care. It was a couple of hours, as you do for every urgent care, and people came in for all kinds of things, but just the approach is so different, I think, because here for some
Yeah.
reason we've only decided that certain jobs get health care, certain people get health care. I don't really understand why that has become the discussion, but it has led to some terrible outcomes. Like if
Yes.
I think people don't understand like real world consequences for the system that we have. We need so many reforms, and
We do.
unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to happen. But we just need a shift about who deserves care. Everyone.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think
you talk
everyone.
about that. And then something you said in your book, for those who don't see themselves represented in the medical system, who are women, people
Yeah,
of color, disabled, and
yeah,
I add a disabled because I know so many people with
yeah.
disabilities who just feel talked over. What are some
Yes.
questions or phrases that we can put in our back pocket when we're sitting in the exam room?
Yeah, I think for all of these groups, I think it's really important for you to do your own research too.
Yeah.
I was shocked to learn, not from my doctor, but from my own research, that Asian American women are having more and more more breast cancer diagnosis. They are on the rise where other groups are, they're faster than other groups, which was
Mhm.
shocking. I did not know that, you know.
Okay.
And I think there's still some bias in medicine. So I think because cancer rates among Asian Americans have, been lower, I think there's sometimes there's a hesitancy to even think, that you might have cancer. I think those kinds of, biases exist in medicine. So I think the first thing you can do is just arm yourself with information, do all of your own research about your own background, your own specific circumstances, so that you're well armed with information when you go to the doctor, and ask questions too. I
Hmm.
think doctors often have the information, but they don't
Right.
necessarily think it's something they could share. Like, so if you said,
Right.
well, if you're going into a primary care doctor and you're worried about your heart, you can say, like, are there
Yeah.
specific things about heart disease that are different for women? And you can say that, is it
Yeah.
different for women?
Right.
Is it different for this racial group? Is it different for this person with this
Right.
disability? What do you know about that? And sometimes they'll
Right.
even say, oh, I should do some research and get back to you. Like, I'm not sure, but then they can do research and get
Okay.
back to you. So I think,
Right.
it can be as simple as, just the raising of the hand of, what about women in this case? What about this group? What should I be
Right.
worried because I have a family history of X? You know,
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
yeah, I think the more information and the better dialogue you can have with your doctor, the better, the better
Right.
informed you'll be.
I think one of the most important points is that you have to go through, though. You've
Yeah,
got to go through. And
yeah,
you talk about bargaining and trying to make deals with the
yes,
universe. You talk about denial
yes,
and anger and the depression that we talked about, all the stages. You know, you tell one of my favorite stories in the book. Um, you and your daughter are Taylor Swift people, and your
yes,
youngest is a huge Swiftie. So
yes,
you tried to get tickets and then you failed. The concert came and went. Then you realize that there's a show in London, and then you get the diagnosis,
yeah,
and suddenly it is not just, will we have the money to go? It's, will I be alive? So,
yes,
how did
yes.
that show become part of your fight to get you to the other side?
It was huge. So we live near Chicago, and Taylor Swift came on her Eras tour, and we could
Mhm.
not get tickets. We were some of the people that sat in the room for hours, sat on Ticketmaster trying to get them.
Yes.
Denied, denied. We got in, they got kicked out. Like, it was just a nightmare. We couldn't get tickets. And then the resale tickets were $1,000 each, sitting
Unbelievable.
behind
Yeah.
a pillar where you can't even see. And I was like,
Mm.
this can't be right. Like, this, or $1,500, and so if you wanted to see her, it was going to be $2,000 a seat, and I was like, this, even in the nosebleeds, I was like, this cannot be,
Oh man.
this can't be right. And my daughter, who's lovely, she was just like, don't worry, mom, it's fine. And then the
Yeah.
concert came, and then what I didn't realize is a bunch of people just stood outside the stadium, which we could have done for free, but I didn't know that.
Okay.
But then she had just a stream in her feed of all of her friends that went, and all of the beautiful pictures, and I mean, it was really
Mm.
hard for her because some of the friends are like
Yeah.
barely fans and got to go for whatever reason, and it was really difficult. And then she and her stepbrother were going on a school funded trip, so to London, when Taylor Swift was going to be there. So we were like, great, why don't we? They're going. We'll just meet them on the tail end, because they were in Vienna and going through parts of Europe. And I was like, we'll just meet them and, like, skip over to London, have the concert, go home. Like, it'll be just a
Yeah.
little, like, family trip. Half of it's
Yeah.
paid for. We should be good. And then the cancer diagnosis came, and we had already gotten the tickets. We were about to book flights, and then I was like, can I do this? Can I do this? But I went to my doctors, and I was just very honest with the doctors and nurses, and I was like, look, I disappointed my daughter once. I don't want to do that again.
Oh,
Like, this is all she's ever wanted. This was the only thing she ever wanted for like 2 years of birthday and holiday gifts. This is all she wanted. Like, I just
yeah.
really want to try to make this happen. And they got right on board. They're like, I get it. I'm a Swiftie, or I know people who are, or I totally understand, or
Yeah.
absolutely, let's make this happen. Let's do this. Let's work around, this. And I think not only did they realize like the importance of it, but I think they also knew it's really important to have a goal, like to have a tangible,
Mm,
this is
hmm.
what I want to do when I'm
I
done
think
with
that,
cancer. And I think it's
yes.
important for us all to have that, whether it's a weekend trip, to a lake, or, how
Right.
a
Whatever it is.
a nice dinner out, like whatever it is, something that you really wanted to do, take ballroom dance lessons, whatever it is, have a goal.
Have
I
something.
think it's so important because it was
Right.
a way to focus me, listening to Taylor
Yes.
Swift music, having that goal in mind the whole time. And then when we did go, it was just so much more amazing. I mean, we were in the nosebleeds at Wembley in London, but it didn't matter. Like, it was absolutely a wonderful experience. And I was it helped just reinforce all the hard work. I mean, when
Right.
things were
Right.
really difficult, when I felt really sick in chemo, I was like, I just have to be well. I just have to be well. I'm just going to get well. Like, it's like a mantra.
Yes.
And I think it's so powerful and can be so powerful for
Right.
people going.
Right. And you didn't just survive. I mean, you
Yeah.
celebrated, and that was
Yes.
what was so cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it could just be something that you really are looking forward to. Make something that you're looking forward to.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Because we need that. I mean, we need to
you
look
do.
forward to something. Yeah. To keep us
Yeah.
moving.
I have to talk about boobs.
Yeah.
So I mean, you did kind of touch on this, but you decided on a double mastectomy, even though the cancer was in one breast. You didn't trust the other one to behave.
Did not. It's a
So,
troublemaker. The right one,
again,
it's always been the troublemaker.
yeah, I mean, of course, in Cara fashion, I mean, and I laughed, and you talk about your relationship with your breasts before cancer and how they showed up late. They didn't
Yeah,
grow like you
they didn't.
expected. They stayed cone shaped,
Yeah,
and
I
you thought
know. What the heck?
you
Yeah,
thought that you had come to a truce with them, like, okay, girls, we got this, we're doing this together, and then they pull this on you. You kind of
yeah,
touched on that a little bit earlier, but the part I want to ask you about this was, okay, this is the more serious part because this was the scars and how hard it was to look at them. And then that quote, never be ashamed of a scar. It simply means that you were stronger than whatever tried to hurt you. I mean, that
yeah,
was so powerful. Can you talk
yeah,
about that time in your life?
yeah. I mean, the scars are real. And when I first got the double mastectomy, they put in they're basically like placeholders, kind of, for the reconstruction that was going to happen, because I had implants put in.
Mm-hmm.
But initially, it's just they're gone, and it's just like Frankenstein scars. Like, it's flat, there's scarring,
Mm-hmm.
it was very hard to look at. It was really, really hard to look at. The nurse even said, like, you don't have to look at like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to look at it. My husband, he's a saint, helped me like dress the wounds and clean the
Yeah.
wounds, and and he was just like, it's temporary. Like, don't worry about it. This is just like, now it's not forever. It'll look different
Mm-hmm.
when things happen. But it took me a while to celebrate the scars, because even after the reconstruction surgery, there were still scars. There's still a port scar. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it took me a while to sort of feel that they're empowering, and they're not things that show that I'm like less than, that I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
that it's an imperfection. Instead of seeing it as an imperfection, I do see it as battle armor. I mean, it
Right, it's part
is,
of your journey.
yeah,
I want to talk about chemo, as you call it, spin the wheel of misfortune because
Misfortune.
you really never knew like what side effects and things were going to come with it. But you're so honest about this part of your journey, even though the surgeons got all the cancer and it had not spread, you still
Right.
had to do the traditional chemo. And your team called it insurance policy, and then came the chorus of voices, some people telling you to do it, some telling you not to do
Mhm.
it, some sharing their horror stories. But there was one thing that you said that I absolutely loved. You wrote, you can start chemo and quit if you
Yeah,
want. Or if you, I mean, just hearing that you had
yeah,
options, I think helped you consent to it. It shifted something. It gave you back a sense of control.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, every cancer journey is different, and some doctors are like,
Right.
you absolutely have to have this or you'll die. And mine were not
Okay.
that definitive. They were like, you really should do this because if the cancer comes back, it'll kill you. And this is the way to make sure the cancer doesn't come back. So, I think it is important to realize, regardless of the treatment that you're having, you're still
Mm-hmm.
in control. So
Right. Right.
you can always quit. You can
Mm-hmm.
always quit. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
you can always decide, I'm done with treatment. I'm just going to let whatever life I have left, this is how I want to live it. That is a perfectly reasonable choice. I mean, this is your body, your life, your decision. And I think, but I also think giving, if we feel like we don't have to, complete it, we don't have to do every little thing. It gives us the kind of permission to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly, like it's,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's reverse psychology or if it's just, well, if it gets really bad, I can quit. But then you stick with it. It's almost like, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to quit. I'm gonna see it through. But I could quit. I could quit if I wanted. Just to have that
Just
escape.
having that there, just
Yeah.
having choice, because cancer has taken so much choice away. So
Yes.
just being able to have that little bit of choice, and actually really a lot of choice in however you want to move forward,
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
is so empowering.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think it's important to realize you're in the driver's seat. I mean, it feels like you're not,
Mm,
but you may have kind of crappy choices, but there's still choices that you can make. So that's important always to remind yourself of that. Like every opportunity you can. I would.
well, it's reclaiming back your life. And
Yeah,
you've had,
absolutely.
you even had the small things taken away from you, like your coffee, you
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Oh,
really, that might seem small, but it's huge. What
yeah.
does it do to you, the spirit, when even the
Yeah.
small joys are stripped from you?
Yeah, it's so hard. So during chemo, I had it just turned my digestive system upside down as it does.
Yeah.
And I had to cut out all kinds of foods. I had to cut out milk and dairy and all kinds of fatty foods. So no hamburgers, no French fries, no chicken nuggets, no pizza, no good stuff. No,
Mm,
no, like and foods that with high acid content, like marinara sauce and coffee. And coffee
mm.
was, look, I have a coffee cup in my hand within like 10 minutes of waking up. This is,
Me too.
I'm a
Hmm.
coffee drinker. I drink it every morning. I love all of the variations. Give me, a latte, give me black coffee, give me, frappuccino, whatever it is. I love coffee.
Right.
Coffee's
Right.
fantastic. And to have to give it up was so hard because it did feel like I was just being kicked when I was down. Like I'm already feeling
Right.
crappy. And then I have to
Yeah.
give up coffee? Like what? At that point, it becomes a challenge just to find things that are joyful, So I had to look for things I could eat, like apricot jam on an English muffin. I could have that; it was delicious. you know, I
Hmm.
could have some
Hmm.
very specialized herbal teas that were pretty good. I mean, they weren't coffee, but they were pretty tasty.
Hmm.
Flavored honeys to put in them, so it becomes something where you really have to look harder for joys because they're still there, and then what
Hmm.
joys are there, you have to really hang on
Hmm.
to
Right.
and guard guard.
Yes. I mean, that's so important. I mean, I do want to talk about something else that, I mean, this was hysterical. Okay. As you joked about your husband browsing a catalog of
Yes,
boobs, like you
yes,
are shopping for a new pair of shoes and you
Right.
picture this legally blonde style surgeon with a pink stethoscope
Yeah.
offering you these
Yeah.
gravity-defying miracle boobs so you never have to wear a bra again. I mean, you talk about now this I read to a couple different people about the Celine boobs that can slosh when you run.
Yes. Yeah, like what the heck? I know. It's so funny because my husband and I joke about this all the time. We thought that was the fun doctor visit, like the fun one, but there is no fun
Yes.
doctor visit in cancer.
Mm,
And like he sort of thought there'd be just a wall of boobs that he could be like, oh, maybe these. What about these? How about
yes.
these? You know?
Yes.
No,
And
no.
like he could feel them to,
Yeah, yeah.
see
But
if he
it's
liked them.
there are a lot of complications, and it's serious surgery, and it's serious business, and they're not natural, so they may slosh or silicone ones. You have to get an MRI every so often to make sure they're not leaking.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it is just not a fun time, a fun journey. There's really nothing fun about it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, I'm glad I did get the reconstruction. I'm glad, I don't have to answer questions. I think it's whatever people are comfortable
Whatever
with.
they want. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you want to go without, go without. You want to
Yeah.
wear just a prosthetic bra, do that. Like
Hmm.
I think it's about getting to your heck yes, about what you want to do, about what you feel comfortable.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I loved PJ's. I mean, PJ was so amazing with you. He is an
yes,
amazing man, and he basically held your hand through this whole entire
yeah,
thing, and he went to your appointments, and it didn't matter to him what boobs you chose. I mean, he
right.
just wanted you to live.
Yes, yes, he did. I've been so lucky to have such an amazing partner. I mean, he was there at every appointment. Um, he's just a fantastic partner, always. And I think what I love most about him is that he's just not afraid of the, emotional stuff, and he's very honest
Hmm.
and open, and I think some men in particular have a hard time expressing their feelings, and then instead of dealing with the fear, there's just like an avoidance. Like if I just stay away from it, maybe it's fine. Like or I don't
Hmm.
want to say the wrong thing.
Right, right.
But he was just right there in it with me, because I really think, I mean, there's a reason there are two seats on the roller coaster. I mean, if you're going down a
Oh,
horrible dip, you want to like look to the person there. Is it as scary as I think? Yes, it is.
I never really thought about that before,
Yeah,
but I really like that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you need a
Just like in
partner on
an
the roller coaster.
airplane,
Yeah,
you don't want to be sitting by yourself on an airplane. Even if the person next to you is a stranger, at least you're going through it together.
exactly, exactly. When that turbulence hits, you want
Yes,
somebody to make eye contact
to
with you.
grab
Yeah,
hands with.
yes,
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 exactly. I do want to talk about something else really quick is you talk very frankly about the cost of cancer. I mean, it is
yeah,
very expensive
yes, it
and
is.
people do deserve to live. And I hate the fact that you mentioned that medical bills are the number one reason for bankruptcy in this country.
Yeah,
And for there's medical bankruptcy and the person people have to choose between rent and chemo and that kind of
yeah,
thing. And that's just not okay.
it
And
isn't.
what I loved about your book is that you have resources. And I want people, I mean, your book is a guide through all of it, but it's also has resources in there for people like this because when you're going through this, your brain is in a fog and you're not
Yeah,
thinking. But they can open your book and they can just say, you know what? I'm going to call these people. I'm going to go to this website and I'm going to try to see if I can get the help that because you also touch on something else that so many people lose their jobs during this time. I mean, 83% said
yeah,
breast cancer affected their careers. I mean,
yeah,
so now you've lost coffee and now you've lost your job too. I
yeah,
mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, because we are so much of what we do. what our job
Yeah.
is. And now
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't even have that.
I know. It was during chemotherapy that actually, because I'm a contract worker, I'm a romance novelist, but I'm basically like a 1099. I'm a contract worker that signs contracts to write books, but I'm not a full-time employee with benefits. So,
Mm,
and that's been most of my career as a freelance writer. So,
right.
during chemo, they let me know they weren't, they were going in a different direction. They
Mm,
didn't want to renew my contract, which has happened multiple times. It's not unusual. I've worked for, four of the big five publishing companies and two of them twice, so it's like, I pitch stories and ideas and I go from one publisher to another. And that's just often how it happens. But I was let go. So I didn't have a renewal of my contract. So basically I was laid off and
mm,
was going through cancer it's such a whammy, but it happens to so
mhm,
many people because despite having some protections for health and disability, not all jobs are protected. Not all jobs
mhm,
have protection. Not all people have resources to, or the sick
mhm,
days or sick leave, that they can take. And it becomes you're saying, it becomes a situation where you have to choose between chemo or rent or in some cases people are like, well, I'm going to put off treatment until I get
mm,
a new job with the benefits. And frankly, I knew someone who did that, and her cancer went from stage 2 to stage 4 during that
mm.
time. She was waiting, and now she'll have to have chemotherapy for the rest of her life, and her life will be shortened. So I think when we try to make judgments about finances, unfortunately, like the safe financial play is not necessarily the healthy one, for you.
Yeah,
And there are resources out there. There are grants you can get from nonprofits. There are ways
right.
to reduce your medical bills by negotiating with the hospital. A lot of programs out there. So I would encourage everybody, going through this just to, do the research, open my book. Like, there are grants you can get. There's help out there from people, well-meaning people that want to help you. So you're not
Mhm,
alone, and
mhm.
there are things that you can proactively do to help you get through this financial time, which is difficult.
Yeah, and you just kind of touched on something because you touched on a decision that your friend made,
Yeah,
and you really talk about the difference between responsibility and blame.
yeah.
And I think that those are two completely different things.
Yeah, I think we second guess ourselves a lot, and I know I've been very hard on myself. And I think I was late getting the routine mammogram that caught the cancer,
Mm,
and so
yeah,
I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels. If I'd gotten it earlier, would it have made a difference? Oh no, I put it off 3 months, and now look, but blame isn't really helpful. Blame sort of keeps us in a place of shame, keeps us
yeah.
from moving forward. Blame doesn't help. Responsibility is more like, well, I didn't get that 3 months ago, so now I'm going to be more on top of my appointments moving forward.
Yeah.
How do I ask that second question to my doctor to see if I can get in sooner? If
Hmm.
since I know this bothers me, and then there's no shame. There's
Hmm.
just what can I do
Right.
next?
Remove
And
the shame.
yeah, remove the shame. There is no shame in cancer. Nobody asks for cancer, like we talked about. And nobody's dream board is cancer. So, I would say leave the shame aside and just what can you do next? What's the next right thing to do, for yourself and your treatment?
I love that your counselor said, I mean, you just keep showing up,
Yeah,
and strong
yes,
people get stronger, not
yeah,
because they never fall apart, but because they keep getting back up. And
yes.
so, can you tell us about a time where you were that bull in the china shop, like you talked about, but it turned out to be one of your strongest moments?
Yeah, it was really around the time of deciding I needed chemo because I really didn't want it. I was really looking for ways to get out of it,
Yeah.
and my counselor was wonderful because she brought up you could do it, but you don't want to. You know, like you're like a toddler, like I don't wanna, and I'm like, yeah. 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 So just the switching of the framing of because I think we all say I can't do that. I can't. It's
Mm-hmm.
impossible. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just reframing it to I can, but I don't want to is,
Okay.
it helps you get to that place of, oh, I can, I just don't want to. I just don't want this. I don't want any of this. I hate it all. I don't want it. Is different than I can't. Because I can't
Mm-hmm.
is, um, kind of keeps you stuck, but I think
Yes.
we can. And sometimes it's throwing a fit. I don't want to. I'm gonna throw a tantrum and I don't
And
want this and I don't want to. And then after you throw the tantrum and after you're calm, you can pick yourself up and like I did, go get chemotherapy.
well, I mean, sometimes you just have to do that. You just
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
Uh, You do touch on a really difficult topic, and that's death. And
Mhm.
nobody wants to talk about that, but
Right.
you do go there, and you talk about how most people make birth plans, but they don't make death plans. And
Yeah.
you bring up how much energy we spend trying to look young and how little time we spend on really thinking about the end. You say something that is really true, that death does not end a relationship. The
Mm-mm.
love remains and the relationship just changes form. And
Yeah.
I often think because, I adopted my three, I've got two olders and three littles now. And I was like, well, I got to get a will. I got to get all the
Yeah.
things. I have to
Yeah.
get the house, protected. So if I go, that they still have a house. I mean, I honestly think that it's really a gift to the people who are left
Yes.
if we
Yeah.
do that. So, what would you say to someone who is scared about doing this and not really even thinking about planning?
Yeah. I think it's important to remember that planning a will and thinking about death doesn't bring it here any sooner. It's not,
It it
you know,
doesn't.
just because you're thinking about it doesn't mean it shows up at your doorstep. I mean, that's not how this works.
I
So
think we feel that way though sometimes. Like we
yeah,
invited it in because we talked about it.
yeah, and that isn't how it works. And I think
Yeah.
planning is so important. It helps the people that you leave behind. I think it's also important to think about it in a way that makes it less scary. Again, you're once you plan things and once you're like, this is how I want things to go. This is the care I
Yeah.
want at the end of my life. This is, it's less scary than just leaving it to chance. And death is not defeat. Death is inevitable. It comes for us all. So even if you're in the middle of a cancer battle, um,
Right.
I wouldn't think of death as failing or losing. You know, um, I just think we get what time we get, and none of us
Exactly.
gets to decide that.
That's
So
right.
we only get to decide how we live while we're here. So that's where we should put our
That's right.
focus. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
bring death to your doorstep any sooner. It just helps the people that you leave behind.
Yeah, I am so glad that we did what we did because when my mom passed away, she didn't have really anything in place. There was a lot that
Mm,
we had to take care of, and there's no way that I'm going to do that to these
yeah.
my three littles. I mean, we're older.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't want them to have this big mess. I wanted everything in place for them, and I just think that that's just it really is thinking about them. It isn't even really thinking about us. It's
Right.
thinking of them.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know that, yeah, it's a gift to them. It's a gift to the people that you love the most, you know, that are here.
And we don't ever want to, like my mom would say, well, we do have to talk about some things if anything did happen to her. And I didn't want to face it. It was something
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk about either.
Yeah, of course. I think that's only human. We should
Right.
show ourselves a little. Who wants to really, sit and talk about death? I know I don't.
Exactly. Well, you do talk about life after cancer,
Yeah.
and it was strange because everyone thinks that you should just be walking on sunshine and you should be really
Yeah.
happy, but you describe feeling lost.
Yeah,
And okay, now, the adrenaline of the battle is gone, the appointment slowed down, and you're left with scars and memories that you really don't want,
yeah,
and a different kind of fear, I would think. And you use the term arrival fallacy.
yeah,
Could you talk about that?
yeah. It's a great question. We talked about the depression before, which a lot
Yeah,
of people experience, and my doctors told me that often that depression happens after cancer goes into remission, which
interesting.
is
Yeah.
counterintuitive. But there is something called the arrival fallacy, and that's where it doesn't necessarily have to be cancer. It can be any like goal that we're trying to achieve, whether that's beating cancer or getting a promotion or winning the lottery, even, whatever it is, we think about it a lot, we plan for it a lot, we work toward that goal. And we think sort of as we're working toward it, as we're working on it, we think not necessarily logically, but like subconsciously, like once I get
Mm-hmm.
this goal, it fixes all my problems. It fixes
Mm-hmm.
my money problems, it fixes my, emotional problems. I'll be happy, I'll be healthy, I'll be, content. And inevitably, whatever goal we achieve happens. But then we
Mm-hmm.
still have the same problems. We still maybe, we're fighting with our in-laws, or we're disagreeing with our spouse, or the kids don't clean up their room. We're passed over for a promotion at work. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of the challenges that we've all been working on this whole time are still there.
Mm-hmm.
The goal was supposed to fix everything, and then it didn't. And then,
Yeah.
especially when it's something like cancer, you're like, oh, but I should be grateful, but I don't feel grateful. I
Yeah.
feel lost. And then it's just a whole like horrible cycle. And I think we should just show ourselves some grace at this time, like, and to
Yeah.
understand that not every goal fixes every problem, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to
Yeah.
say, it didn't fix all the problems. It fixed this one big problem, and I'm very grateful for that. And I still have these other problems, and that kind of stinks.
Yeah, I think that oftentimes we feel things after it's over. Eh,
Yeah. Well, you're in the moment, the heat of it. Yeah.
Right, right. And even though if it's 16 months or 20 months or whatever, however long it takes for you to get to the other side, you just went through something really
Yeah.
horrific and you need some time.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like how some people they did things with that. Like, they could start a charity or support groups, go to
Yeah.
support groups or knit chemo caps, get involved, but continue support, get continued therapy, get continued self-care.
Hmm.
And I thought that that was all really important advice because you think, okay, I'm good now. I'm healthy. And I think that,
Yeah.
you let a lot of those things go and you don't understand why you don't feel okay still.
Yeah. No, you're so right. I mean, that's so important. That community too is so important to keep going after, for your mental health for sure.
Toward the end of your book, there is no good book for this, but I wrote one anyway. You talk about what really matters now. You say you have less tolerance for nonsense. You care more about kindness, self-care, boundaries, empathy, and you want to live in a way that honors what you went through. If you had to name a few things that feel crystal clear to you after all of this, what would they be?
Yeah. Living with intention. I think we go on
Oh,
autopilot a lot, you
that's
know,
good.
we go on autopilot a lot. And I think my experience just really taught me that we have limited time. So the
Mm,
autopilot's wasted time. So if you're just like going through the motions, but not doing the thing that brings
okay.
you joy, not focusing on your passions, like what you really want to do with your life, how you really want to make your mark, then
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of wasted time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also a waste of time to be, cruel and selfish and shallow too. Like if you're thinking about how do I want to be remembered, how do I want to
Mm-hmm.
leave my mark, then do those things, And I think the less time we can spend on autopilot, the better off we're all going to be.
Mm-hmm. You end with this truth that I want to echo. You say you are a survivor and you are no victim. And
Hmm.
I love that you put your experience on these pages because I
Yes.
would think, it would be hard to write it. It would be hard to talk about it and talk about it, but it would be so healing in a different way.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you chose to take your experience and do this for other people. I think it's beautiful. For
Oh, thank
someone,
you.
yeah, for someone listening who doesn't feel like a survivor yet, who maybe is still in the chemo chair, still waiting on scans, what would you want to say directly to them?
I would say that, I would say what the Navy SEALs tell themselves, which is that when you want to quit, when you're at your weakest, when you think you're all spent, you're only 40% there. Like you've got
Mm,
reserves in the tank you don't even know about yet.
okay.
So if they, if they can keep going, like we can too. So
Mm,
you've got more strength in you than you know. You're much stronger than you know. And just keep going. There's no way but through. So just keep on moving. No one wants to stop
amen.
there. Just keep on moving.
World changers aren't pleasing everybody. They're just not.
Cara, thank you so much for your honesty, your humor, your willingness to sit in the hard and still look for the light. Thank you for writing the book that so many people need and for talking about it like this today and your humor. I mean, it really touched me. And I honestly don't think, I mean, I know that I have never read an entire cancer book before. And it kept me turning that page. So, to everyone listening, whether you are in treatment, in remission, caregiving, grieving, or just learning how to face your own fears, I hope you heard something today that made you feel less alone. You are not a burden. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your scars or your hair or your bank account or anything on your worst day. You are a whole person. You are worth the fight. And like we say here all the time, even here, even now, there is still something to be thankful for, even if it is small and quiet and hiding in the corner of a hard day. We will put Kara's book, There Is No Good Book for This, but I wrote one anyway, The Irreverent Guide to Crushing Breast Cancer. Until next time, take care of your body, take care of you. Talk back to fear. Let people help you and cling to the joys that remain. We really care about you here at Real Talk with Tina and Anna. Remember that there is always purpose in the pain and there is hope in the journey. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Cara, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.